Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Sound of Sirens podcast. I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick, and this is an important announcement. This podcast contains explicit material that isn't recommended for young audiences, such as language and depictions of graphic nature, so listener discretion is going to be advised. Keep in mind that the views and opinions of this podcast are that of the host and do not reflect the views of the guests, affiliates, or sponsors of the show in any way, shape, or form. Also, please remember that the individuals mentioned on this show, regardless of involvement, are to be considered innocent until proven guilty in court. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's start the show. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Sound of Sirens podcast. As always, I'm your host, Larry Frederick, and tonight we'll be doing part 2 of the Jared Mccolloch case. We'll be welcoming his mother, Tammy Mccolloch, as well as Miss Terry from the first recording, and I think we may have one other guest as well. But before we dive into that, I just want to let everybody know that there is a issue with the top fans on Facebook. I'm going to try to get that settled and worked out. That way we can acknowledge you. Also, we are still looking for sponsors. It is tagged to the top of our Facebook page. We'll take sponsors and donations. Doesn't matter which one. But while I'm saying that, this may deter you, but I feel obligated to have to tell you. Unfortunately, between my professional life and my personal life, it's starting to become hectic to the point where I can't schedule out these podcast dates. I can't promise you that a new episode is going to come out weekly like they had been, or even monthly. It's going to end up being where I get a case, I find the time to cover the case, and I put out an episode. I know that's not idealistic or what the people want, but honestly, I just appreciate the fact that my followers returned and I'm still able to help these families while I can. I put out a post on Facebook earlier, and the reactions have been humbling, to say the least. So I just wanted to be honest and put that out there for the people. That way you all know exactly what's going on. This is not goodbye, like I said. This is just a see you when I can type deal. We are still going to be helping people, and if anybody needs anything posted or anything like that, you can still reach out. I'll still post it on the page. It's just my personal life has gotten so hectic that it's just hard for me to dedicate the time needed to put out this content the way I have been. But with that being said, I do still have this case. I have 2 more cases after that. And then we'll do our little hiatus. But let's enjoy what we have for now and try to deeper dive into the Jared Mccolloch case tonight and see what we have going. So without further ado, I'm going to give a call to Miss Tammy now, and we're going to begin our conversation. All right, welcome back. I have Miss Tammy and Miss Terry on the line. Women, thank you for coming on again for the part 2 tonight and discussing a little bit more about Jared's case. I know we just eclipsed a year here within the last couple weeks, so it can't be easy what you're going through right now. And I know myself and all of my listeners sympathize with y'all, but thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for having my back here and coming with me.
Oh yeah, so in the first recording we did, it was all myself and Miss Terry. This time we have the luxury of having you, Miss Tammy, Jared's mom, and provide us with a little bit, I guess you could call it more insight into the case. So whatever you can divulge or speak about, we understand that it is an ongoing case and that you can't talk about everything, but I think the public is very interested in the case, as we kind of saw earlier today without mentioning how, but there's been a lot of discussion involving Jared in this case recently, so we definitely want to hit on some different things. Before we start, just to recap with the listener, we are discussing the case of Jared Mccolloch. He went missing November 5th of 2023. He is from Louisiana. He went missing, I guess, would we consider it at this point Illinois or Indiana?
I would say Illinois because the police department did change. If you look at his name is
Hmm.
his last location, there is what the police department has listed. So I'd call it Illinois.
Okay, and just to recap, so the circumstances surrounding it is very weird. And if you go back and listen to the first episode, there was multiple stops in his trip, and where his vehicle was ultimately found with him not in it. The dogs were still in the vehicle. Can you kind of, I guess, give me your version, Miss Tammy, since I wasn't able to speak to you the first time of kind of let's dive back into it. When did you initially find out one that Jared was missing or declared him missing, and what kind of gave you the red flag to believe that?
Well, the police department gave me the red flag. I got a call Monday morning that the truck and the two dogs were found inside. They got my phone number from the dog tags because it had mine and Jared's phone number on it. And they called my husband. He was at work. Um, so just immediately, because that's not an area known to myself and to my knowledge, Jared, and the fact that the and the dogs were there, it was immediate that something was wrong.
Okay, so in the first one, again to my listeners, if you go back and listen, there's a timeline laid out that you were nice enough to provide Miss Terry to provide me, of his stops, times of the stops, locations, everything like that. So for the listener who wants to refresh and come back up on all of those details, feel free to go back and listen to that episode. So he was en route to uh, 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 an area unfamiliar to him to see his son, correct?
No, it was familiar to him in a sense.
Well,
I say in
yeah.
a sense because he hadn't been back there since he was younger. So some things I'm sure have changed. I just went back there this on the 1 year anniversary. I went back to the location. There's a lot of things that have changed, but a lot of things still stay the same.
Mm. So okay, so yeah, he was familiar. I think where it took a turn that we discussed was you could see him at the gas station and he gets on the phone. And one of the last known records, if I'm recalling correctly, it's been a while since I touched on this case, but one of the last records for phone records was him with a known individual kind of saying, hey, meet me here. And he kind of went back the same way he came. Is that correct?
Not really. He didn't say anything as far as meet me here. He did say he was going to be on a certain road, and that was whenever he first came into town in Salem,
Mm-hmm.
Illinois. He was going to be on a certain road. As far as the last text message that was sent, it was actually sent to me from Carmi, Illinois, at about eight. It was That's debatable too because we don't know Eastern and Central Time on the way things show up. So,
Okay.
according to my phone bill, it shows that not my phone bill. Yeah, according to my phone bill, I'm sorry. 7:59 a.m. is when it shows that Jared sent me that text message that said, "Where is that?" Now, looking at my phone, it shows that I received it at 8:59. So, I mean, I'm not sure that he was actually at that Hux location.
Mm.
Probably not, because again, depends on time frame. It all gets so confusing.
Right, right. So,
That he accidentally sent that text to his mother.
Right.
right. So it was intended for another individual and it ended up going to you.
I assume it was because we hadn't talked that day, and he normally doesn't text me in the morning. I had spoke to him the night before, and nothing was amiss. And I would like to touch on one thing that a lot of people bring up. They talk about his stops and his gas.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I have been driving Jared's truck quite a bit since I've been back home to Louisiana. But I would like to add that I got as much forensics done on it since I've been back home through the Union Parish office alongside of whatever Knox County did before I did that. But as far as all his stops, as far as gas, when people say, well, why didn't you only get this much amount? I was down to, for one, the gas station that we have here in town. We're a small town too, 500 people. We got a gas station.
Mm.
So it's prepay.
Okay.
And so I was down to, I guess, probably about an eighth of a tank. and I did the $20 worth of gas like he done at most of those locations, and it brought me up over 3/4 of a tank. I mean, no, I don't check mileage or whatever to know what gas mileage or what the gas costs, but I would say that's why he does it, because the people at this local gas station know him well. They ask me about him every time I come in there. They've got his posters hanging up, and they would mention that he stopped in there every morning before work and got a breakfast sandwich, or brought the dogs up there whenever he was not working to get some chicken or, you know, whatever. So he would just go up to that. $20 is what he was used to.
Right. Right. So it's nothing out of the ordinary for him to just be like, all right, well, I always put 20 in. I know what that'll get me. I'm going to just go ahead and throw 20 more in.
Exactly. I know people like look a lot into that, but after I'm much my truck's bigger and it's a diesel, so after driving his gas truck and putting $20 in and realizing how much it filled me up, that's probably why he did what he did.
Right. And I mean, listen, a common denominator in almost every case that I've covered so far is you got a lot of Monday morning quarterback people that want to come in and, well, why didn't you do this? Or why did you do this? And why haven't you searched here? And the fact of the matter is listen, you're one individual, and you're not only just an individual, you're somebody with direct ties to the missing person. You're someone who is emotionally invested, who may not have an avenue that someone else does, or may not have the investigative experience that someone else does. So for you to be basically taking this up on your own, now I know law enforcement has done something, and I'm you can't see me, but I'm air quoting.
Right.
I know that law enforcement has done a little bit, but it's a lot of your own work that's getting things accomplished. So it's really on you what you want to divulge to the public or not. And I don't think people understand that. I think people feel entitled, and people feel like they deserve updates, for lack of a better word, or deserve some kind of explanation. But end of the day, this is on you.
Well, and I try to update as much as possible. And Miss Terry knows. I mean, I've got so many hypotheses and things like that, and I've gone this way and that way, and it could be this person or it could be that person, but that might not be true either. I mean, it's still my own investigation. I don't want to put anything out publicly
Right,
unless
right.
we have facts behind it.
Right. So I mean, in the first episode when me and Miss Terry talked, we kind of went over some theoretics and a couple different theories of what possibly could have happened, and why we don't exactly think that what was reported is what happened. As far
Right.
as the shoes being found by the river, and at that time that river was almost like a creek. It was shallow, and there's no way that if he went in, it would have washed that far. It would have been easily discovered. And we talked. I believe we had something with psychics and things of that nature. So I never really got to talk to you. What is your overall feeling towards this? Do you feel like foul play is involved, or do you feel like uh, it's at this point it's a open kind of thing? You just can't really put a story together.
I 100% believe that foul play is involved. I mean, with everything that I've been told, the tips that I've been given, I 100% believe foul play. I don't know why yet. I mean, I'm still working on that and trying to make those kind of connections, but I mean, that's going to be exactly it, because nothing else makes sense.
Right, and that's kind of where I was going with it. I believe that there was foul play involved, and I put together a theory that unintentional text that was sent to you was a way of kind of getting a location set for him to go, and then maybe somebody followed him, and it was a botched robbery, or he put up a fight along the way, or something to that notion, or he they took the truck. But I don't think that taking the truck would have been feasible because of the dogs inside. And that, according to Miss Terry, those dogs was like his kids.
Right, but I know everybody also, as far as the dog is concerned, looks at Roxy May and thinks this big bad German Shepherd. She is a pain in my butt. She really is. She's not got with the exception of with Miss Bella, my other son's dog, she's not got a mean bone in her body. Now, would she fight somebody? No. That's the same reason because unfortunately the CAD report was leaked from the dispatch office in Knox County,
Oh
and a
no.
lot of people, yeah, and a lot of people have made note of that, and even in that report, although if you read it properly, it does state as far as one dog being inside the vehicle. And that's because Roxy would not come out of that truck. That's her doghouse. That's her safe spot.
Hmm.
So if anybody could actually get into that truck and drive it, and Roxy would pretty much probably hide from them or just sit there bewildered. She's not, unless she's seen somebody hurting Jared, like, and was there in physical sense, she may defend him then. I don't know. I'm
Hmm.
not going to try to put her in that situation. I mean, I don't know. But as far as the truck, like I said, it's like her doghouse. She's not going to hurt nobody. That's why she didn't want to come out when it was found.
Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense. And to me,
And
I would think that he was led to a location and not brought to a location. That's just
I
kind of
I
where my
agree.
brain's at with it.
yep.
So since the last time that we talked, do you want to talk about some things that may have transpired in the last, however many months it's been, or I know I had reached out to, I think it was Indiana Search and Rescue with canines. It's a canine group. Has there anything happened with that, or?
I know I've talked to Miss is it Leah? I'm pretty sure several times, and I know she was working on it, and she's working with Detective Carr. What has taken place since then, or what they're discussing, I'm not privy to, but I know me and Miss Leah still keep in contact, and she's doing the best she can. But that has to again have um, the department's approval. They work
Yeah,
through them.
and I understand that.
Me too.
So I mean, at least that option is there for whenever they do approve it. Hopefully they do. Has
Well,
there?
yeah, yeah. I'm not saying that he's not going to approve it, but the main point is to remember is there's jurisdictional issues.
Right.
The areas that are looking to need to be searched are in Illinois, not Indiana.
Mm. Okay, so the truck was found on the Indiana side, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So do you feel like maybe that area needs to be searched, or do you feel like he never made it into Indiana and just his truck did?
I know what I feel. I'll let Terry tell you because she, I think, agrees with me.
Go ahead, Miss
Yeah,
Terry.
I don't believe he ever went into India, and I believe the truck, whatever happened to Jared, happened in Illinois, and
Right.
I believe his truck was driven there to throw you off.
Yeah.
I believe they placed his shoes. Um, but I have never believed that he was in that truck when it went to its final location.
Yeah, I know when we discussed it in the last time we visited this, we kind of had that agreement as well. That everything looked too fine tuned, for lack of better terms. Like it was staged.
Correct.
So with the like you said, the shoes were set up in a way to kind of make it look like he may have slipped and flipped them off or something like that. Like they were a little spaced apart and close to the edge of the embankment. Like I don't know.
Well, that's the way it's described to us as far as the shoes. I want to add that I've never seen pictures to confirm that they are his shoes, but I've sent pictures of his shoes, so I'm trusting the detective. But I don't know. I can't tell you 100% how they were placed because I didn't see them, and I've not seen pictures if they took any of how they were placed. I just
Okay.
know what was described to me.
All right.
And also, I'd like to add, Tammy knows her son. She knows how he always drove and how his windows would be when he drove. He always, no matter what the weather was, he always had his window rolled down, not
Mhm.
completely, but rolled down. And that was one of the questions she asked. And his window was not down, just the back window, correct? Just a quarter of a way.
Back driver's side is what they told me.
Right. And that is completely out of the ordinary. If Jared was driving that truck to that location, the window should have been down on the driver's side window.
Right. And on top of that, I've thought from the very beginning. I mean, if it was a robbery going bad, I mean that truck's not cheap. That's a pretty pricey truck, and I mean it looked like he had a little bit of work done to it, and he took care of it. So if you were gonna try to make some money off of a robbery, that'd be one of the first things that I don't know would pop back up.
Well, and they discounted the robbery theory because there was a whole pile. Jared kept all his change, so his cup holder was overflowing with change. There was $1 bills, in his cubby hole there too. So I mean, there was money that wasn't stolen. There was also tools. Now they've asked me as far as those are concerned, but I couldn't tell you what kind of tools he traveled with or what kind of tools he owned. I couldn't tell you everything that he had to know if any of those are missing.
All right. Yeah. So I'm almost in agreement with y'all. I mean, I say almost. I am in agreement with y'all. I think that foul play is absolutely 100% what's going on. The problem is these small towns out there. You almost find, and it came to fruition on multiple of the cases that I've covered about these small towns and the good old boy clubs, and and I don't want to accuse any agency or individuals of being for the community more than for the case, but it just seems like with the tips that have come out that we won't discuss, but I know there've been some tips to lead you in a particular direction that seems like they wasn't followed up on. There's got to be a reason for that. There's got to be a reason that the police are just not following up on certain tips and following up on others. Like, I don't know. And the petition that's been signed, I know it's been signed by a lot of people.
Right.
So, I mean,
Why is the FBI not involved?
Right.
It's and it's always funding. They don't have the funding. They don't have.
well, and if they
Well, I'm
if they
sorry.
don't have that, that's fine. But give it to an agency that does have it.
It does, absolutely.
That's been my
Ask
biggest
for
thing.
help.
Right. Since I mean, every state has a state affiliated agency, whether it be federal or just state, that is capable of handling these things. And I know there's an abundance of missing persons cases around the United States. So federal may have their hands full, but they have the capabilities, and so does the state police of either Indiana or Illinois. Just give it to an agency that is going to take the time and dedicate the resources that they have to coming up with some kind of answer.
That's another part of our justice system that needs fixed. I think I've went on a few tirades on our page about that. NamUs is a federally funded program, so why aren't all states mandated to use that? Because right now where Jared went missing is a tri-state area. You got 3 different states that are joined. So if, say, Jared's body turned up in another state, unless you have that state putting those unidentified people into the database, you're not going to know.
Right. And that's actually a really good point. So in the last few months, has there been any movement on the case that you can talk about?
I know people get on me as far as updates. I don't have anything as far as facts. I know that there are a few locations that are being looked into and a few people that are being looked into. That is all I know.
That was going to lead me to my next question, and not to cut you off, but has there since we talked last, or since me and Miss Terry talked last, has there been anybody that's been questioned or interviewed as a potential person of interest, anything to that extent?
If they have, they haven't told me directly. I do know that as far as Knox County, as far as evidence or anything that they may have taken, I know, I've been on the detective quite a bit, and we go back and forth a lot, but I do really like him. He's always honest with me. I do know that they took DNA. Now, what all they took it from, as far as the area or the truck inside and out, I can't tell you that either. I do know they took it. But another problem with our system is the fact that as of yet, last time I talked to the detective, and actually asked him point blank, because it's ask a question, you get an answer
Mm-hmm.
situation, was 2 weeks ago. And the DNA should be coming back anytime now, if but it hasn't as of yet. The labs are so backed up, and it's not a priority case. A missing person is not considered a priority. So, of course, murders and things like that are priorities.
Yeah, that's why I have the problem with circumstantial cases like they're gonna declare it circumstantial because there's no body, and then I mean the crime scene's technically not a crime scene, it's just where things turned up, but in the manner that they turned up, and then you have the phone records, and just you couple that with the fact that he was going to visit his son and hadn't had the best, interaction with the, where he was going, to try to not use names or anything like that, or even point blame. But you would think the circumstances, even being circumstantial, the circumstances surrounding how they found everything, where he was going, it just, to me, it screams suspicious.
Okay, well, I want to interject real quick and say that the sheriff's statement in December hurt the case quite a bit. And I know people still dwell on that and still try to put out there the fact that Jared may be on the run or ran from his probation/parole, and he's dangerous. And I really want everybody to hush and calm that down. The best thing that they can do if they want to think about this and be smart about it is to sign the petition, call the FBI, call whoever, because if that's how you believe, then why didn't Knox County Sheriff label this as a criminal case instead of a missing person case? Because then the FBI should be involved if it was a criminal case. That would allow them to get search warrants. That would allow them to get warrants for other people's phone records, for ability to discuss things with potential witnesses, for helping him elude the police. So if that's the way people think, fight for it to be labeled as a criminal case.
Right, and that's another good point. And I think whenever me and Miss Terry spoke about it in the first episode, they were gonna dismiss or I guess remove those charges within what was it, like a week of him going up there?
He was going off probation.
Right. Okay, yeah. So that was it. They were they were removing him off of probation for whatever crimes that they keep talking.
November 17th is whenever he was going to be released off of supervised parole. He had supervised parole. And yes, he did get new charges that came up with a current situation. And I've got my own opinion about that, and we'll let that go. But he hadn't even been to arraignment on that. And if those charges were actually legitimate, that a person was on parole for, and they really thought they were going to revoke his parole, he, number one, wouldn't have been allowed to bond out. He, number two, would not have been able to get a traveler's permit to go to West Virginia. That just wouldn't have taken place. Those things were allowed, and this would have went through the cycle. And Jared would have not ran from it. He didn't run from his past charges. He would have not run from this one either.
Right,
And he knew we were on his side.
Yeah. And the charges weren't violent charges, right?
Well, the last one, according to the claims, but he never got his day in court, but not for the one he went to prison for, no.
Yeah, I mean, but on all accounts, what we talked about, Jared was actually a caring individual. I mean, it doesn't seem, I don't know.
His biggest problem was he helped people that didn't deserve it, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes 100%.
Kind of like the things that we discussed about the things on the page or things that have been said recently. Today, the biggest calm in me throughout it all was hearing Jared in my head saying, "Oh, Mom, just it's okay. They can't help it. It's not their fault." Because that's Jared's typical thing. He would stick up for the people who didn't deserve to be stuck up for.
Yeah, that's understandable. A lot of people have those traits. I mean, but that also goes back to kind of how I've gone about handling all of my cases. You never judge somebody by their past or even their current situations. Everybody's entitled to a fair and due process with everything. So nothing.
One thing is due to Jared's past that he was that way. I mean, he always was that way, but he was more so after he came home and did what his time in prison or whatever. It's just people judged him then, and he didn't want to do that to other people.
Right, and that's completely understandable. So I don't know if you can or want to talk about it, but there's been a lot of people talking about the fact that his son recently went missing and then was found. Do we know what the circumstances surrounding that is, or can you speak on what the circumstances surrounding it? Like that wasn't like a I guess you could say I don't want to say like nothing foul. Like he didn't run away from circumstance, right? Like it was.
He's an angry 15-year-old boy who's went through heck and back. He ran away, and yes, I've been told by multiple people where he was on multiple occasions, and some people have got TikToks, but he was found and he was brought back. I mean, I can't say personally all the places that he was found because, again, I don't want to put anybody's name out there, and I didn't hear it directly from the police, so
Right.
I don't want to put somebody down whenever I didn't hear it legally.
Well, I got into I'm not going to call it an argument, but a bit of a disagreement with some individuals regarding that disappearance, for lack of better terms. And they kind of made it sound like that was all a play to get more attention away from Jared and onto his son and just kind of take eyes off of the original case. And I don't know how you would take that away from a child that is missing. But I mean, I understand there's a relation, but like you said, he's an angry child. He's going through a lot. I mean, he's still going through it. Just like you don't have answers, he don't have answers.
Any normal 15, 16-year-old child, boy, well, girls too, I guess. I didn't have one except for Samantha, in a sense, but they're. I mean, Terry can tell you she's got two boys. They're a mess.
Oh yeah, I got.
Yeah, I have three boys.
Yeah, I've got two boys myself. One's 7, and one's about to be 2. So I mean, I completely
And-
understand.
You got a lot coming. You got
And
a
might
lot
I
coming.
might I add, he is, as she stated, 15 years old. He is a minor. It wasn't her place to discuss anything about the case on social media.
Right.
And I mean, that is absolutely absurd that people would even come up with that scenario that, Jared was definitely a mama's boy. Kind of like my oldest son. He depended very much on his mother. He would never go, well, it's over a year now,
Right.
in hiding and put his mother through what she's already been through once.
No.
He would never do that to her.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just people, they're grasping at straws, and it's they got to understand there's just some things that she can't put on social media. It is a open case.
Well, that was a lot of what I said earlier. And then I know we kind of hit on the fact that I got into a little spat with some people on social media on the Finding Jared page earlier. But a lot of people are just
I mean,
ignorant.
I'm sure, I know I do. I would love to scream from the rooftops what we think, and with tips that have come in, and she has to just sit back and wait for law enforcement. And it's ridiculous how long they've had these tips and nothing's done.
You're saying the exact words, Miss Terry, that I just told Andy earlier. I said I'd love to scream everything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? Because the more information out there, even if it's just a theory, is information that can potentially be followed up and find something.
Right, but we try to be as obvious as we can as far as on Facebook, as far as what we know. But it's one thing that Detective Carr is correct on. He always tells me, Tammy, stick to the facts, and
Hmm.
that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stick to the facts because not only do I want to find Jared, God love it, I do, and especially right now, the holidays is the worst time for me. But I
Hmm.
also want to know the hows, the whys, and hold whoever's responsible accountable. Even if it was an accident, somebody did something to him accidentally, they still covered it up by staging the truck, and they still have let me suffer for 383 days today.
And see that part, the suffering. I don't think people understand truly, and that's a part of what I responded earlier was if you're in it for the entertainment, you're in it for a completely wrong reason. People are living this. You're his mom. You more than anybody. This is reality. You
Right.
can't you can't take information and just give it out there as part of a Dateline NBC type deal and just be like, oh, this is what I think happened, and they're not doing nothing, and that's all detrimental to the case. You have to be mindful that anything you say can harm the reputation of the case or even, I mean, better it, but there's certain things you can't say. There's certain things that you don't want to say because you just don't want to jeopardize anything going forward. And I think,
Right. And I want him found. I mean, you're giving people the opportunity to cover up that much more if I say something else.
right, but every day that goes by, I'm more than sure as a mother, the suffering, like you said, gets worse and worse every single day. And people remove the human aspect from all of these cases. Like people that follow it, and not all people, because there is a lot of genuine people, but there's a lot of ingenuine people as well. And people like earlier just want to see entertainment and oh well this is going to be the ultimate way it's going to turn out and I think you know more than what you leading on, maybe we should look into you type deal, and pardon my French, but it's bullshit.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I've been accused of everything, every which way you can imagine, including hiding him out. But wouldn't I just shut up if I was hiding him out somewhere? And as far as I should move there and live there, what is that going to solve? There's hundreds of square miles of wooded and rough terrain and snakes and bugs and spiders.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't even know where to look. And you can't just go walking on private property.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to respect the people who live there. Those places say St. Francisville, which is where he's labeled as missing from. It's a town the same size of the town that we live in. Now, just like here, nobody wants a stranger coming into town and telling them what they should and shouldn't do and what this person or that person may have done. You can't come in there with guns blazing, telling these people who've lived there their entire lives
Mm-hmm.
what you think the town has done. It just doesn't work that way.
All right, I mean, speaking from experience, a parish sheriff's office, yeah, no, you're not going to get around them.
Mm-mm.
They're very inter-organizational in a way where
Yeah,
they're like, yeah, no, I don't need an outsider trying to tell me how to do my job.
exactly. Yep.
So is there anything that you would like to put out as far as some things that you have planned coming up to try to like, I know you've gone up there and organized like a vigil, I guess you can call it, or something like that. Like, is there anything coming up that you want people to know about?
I don't have anything planned at this point. No, because we just did the 1 year um, situation, or um, what do I want to say, Terry?
Do
Awareness.
what?
I was asking you for help. What do I want to say? Awareness.
Like
And
like
just,
yeah.
yeah,
Right. It was like 1 year awareness just to keep the word out there and so people don't forget about Jared, you know.
Mm.
And and that's another thing, they constantly talking how I seen today a post that she's not doing enough, and she's what is it 9 hours? 9 hours away?
I think it's closer to 10.
Right. And, what is it that she's supposed to do? Me and her drove around, and we look and we actually got out and walked the Cannonball Bridge.
We drove across it. What?
And she drove across it. Yes, she did.
Yeah, y'all are only two people though. I mean, and unfortunately, nothing can progress in the case from a police standpoint unless the detective having jurisdiction surrenders that to another agency.
Right, and that's why whenever I posted, people get irritated with that as far as questions asked the sheriff. Now, I've only spoken to the sheriff of Knox County one time, Detective Cars, who I talked to, and but we have to remember, and you're a responder also, that it's not the detective's call on who has jurisdiction or when a case gets transferred over. Ultimately, that depends on the sheriff, and the sheriff is the only one who can come about and make statements. Now, I'm not putting the sheriff down by no means. I've never met the man and I don't know him, but I would be blessed if he would come forward and at least give the citizens of his own community, let alone on our page, an update. As far as, I mean, I see so many missing person cases. The sheriff in the area will come on and make a statement. I mean, it would have been nice on the 1 year if he would have made a statement and letting the community know the progress that they may or may not have made.
Or at least let him know that he's involved and didn't give up.
Well, he's never said a word.
Correct. Yep.
And that's a big issue. I mean, when your biggest public figure from the a police standpoint isn't saying anything, that's more, to me, that's a little bit more fishy than the case itself. Like, then that leads you to wonder, well, who is he affiliated with on the side that he's not trying to put that kind of concerted effort into this case. In my opinion.
He's leaving us to our own opinions, kind of like what Terry said before. I mean, I've had, some law offices Facebook message me and stuff like that, and kind of put me down and saying that I was bad mouthing the sheriff of Knox County, and I don't want to say threatening me, but saying things that were unnecessary. I mean, that makes it look even more fishy. That's why I just wish he would make a statement publicly. I do know Channel 14 News has reached out to them several times. What has come of it, I'm not sure, but I know if he made a statement, I'm sure they would have aired it.
Right, and I will say I made a public records request on behalf of the podcast to Knox County, and have been denied. They will not provide any public information, even though it's public information. The Freedom of Information Act varies from state to state. So they're allowed to basically dictate what kind of information they divulge to anybody based upon that state, and they won't provide anything to me. Everything's been redacted.
Yeah, Miss Marissa Jones from the Banished podcast, she also tried and they denied her. I also tried and they denied me. And but after the CAD report got leaked through their central dispatch to another person, they did release all that to me, and I do have it. And people may get mad at me, and that's okay. The reason why I choose not to post it online or anything like that, or on our page, is because it has information that I don't think should be made public, and that's nothing foul against Jared. It means the person who found the truck, yes, I do know his name, but it also lists his name, his phone number, and to me, putting out a person who did the right thing and was trying to help out as far as reporting this, that information shouldn't be made public.
I couldn't agree more. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier, this is your decision. What you want public and what you don't want public is completely on you. There's no one that can blame you for any decision that you make or any information you choose not to put out. Because at the end of the day, this is heavily reliant upon you and how you handle things outside of the police department. I mean, I don't know what people want outside of what you've been doing. I mean, almost every single day you make a post on the Finding Jared page. just, thanking people for continuing to share, putting up flyers. And that's really all we can ask anybody to do is continue things like this, just revisiting and touching on the topic on a podcast, putting flyers out, just talking about it, keeping it relevant. That's what we
Yes,
need.
keep his name out there. Keep his name out there so he's not forgotten, and let everybody know that we're not giving up and we're not stopping. But also, as far as the CAD report is concerned, for those who don't know, because I did not know what it is, it's nothing more than listening to your scanner at home. It's just typed out. So some of that information is not correct. Like in an instance, the plate number that came back, people want to make it relevant. The few people that have touched on it, that it supposedly came back to a 2013 Ford and try to imply that there was another vehicle there. The person who found the truck and was there, he inverted the plate number. So therefore, that's why it got called in originally that way. That's why the CAD reports aren't relevant, because it's not all factual. It's just the situation that's going on at that time during the, calls back and forth.
Right. And I mean, I can elaborate a little bit more on that being a fire chief. When we get dispatched to something, they're dispatching exactly verbatim what the caller is telling them. So, in a lot of times, there's human error involved in that. Like the dispatcher is typing this in, so they may have a typo that completely messes up all of the information. Like they may misspell a plate, or like there was one time I got called out to what we thought was a kidnapping and house fire. Like they kidnapped the kid, put him in a house, and set the house on fire. But it was nothing more than it was misconstrued. The kid actually called in and said, "Oh, I don't know where my parents are. There's somebody in my house, and it's on fire." But they were playing on the phone, so they have to dispatch exactly what's being told to them, and it could be misleading. But when that
Correct.
comes out as public record, and you could print out the CAD, like you said, all of that information is still included because they don't redact it as they find out the correct information. It still has all of the information that was given the entirety of the call.
Right, right.
So I mean, it's very misleading. I don't blame you for not wanting to put that out because to be honest, it doesn't need to.
I just wanted to explain that part because I honestly didn't know what a CAD report was until this. I mean, I'm
Okay.
learning so much on this journey. So if I didn't know, I'm sure a lot of other people didn't know what it was either.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up, and hopefully it's educated some people. But I guess coming to an end of the conversation here, is there anything that you may need that somebody listening may be able to facilitate? Like, are you still looking for any search parties? Or, I mean, I know you said that a lot of it's private land. You're going to need a warrant to go on or anything. But is there any kind of resources that you're currently looking for that we may be able to get for you?
Um, Honestly, I think Terry would. I guess I think Terry, do you agree on the fact of I think the only thing that we can go through is I really think maybe FBI. I know in the petition I mentioned Illinois or Indiana State Police, but with what we kind of believe happened, that would make it federal because whatever happened to Jared happened in Illinois. That means somebody would have actually stolen his truck or borrowed it, we can say, and dumped it. So that's a crime in two states. So, I mean, I think, Terry, don't you agree? I think
I
FBI.
agree. Mm-hmm. Yes,
So really,
definitely.
what we need to try to do is somebody with enough, I guess, power, for lack of better words, somebody with enough power or a way to,
Out.
yeah, get it through to the FBI just to kind of get it out there and maybe show them the petition, show how many people signed it, and that with saying that to all my listeners, if you haven't joined the Finding Jared Mccolloch page, do so. Go find that petition. It's on that page. Go sign the petition. The more signatures we have, the better. And if there's anybody that feels like they have an avenue of maybe getting this pushed to a higher level, what would be your preferred method of contact? To contact you through the Finding Jared McCulloch page?
Yes, yes. And there is, yes, definitely through there, or they could reach out to you because you've got my number.
Mm-hmm.
But also on that petition, if you scroll down, there is representatives and FBI and police listed under there, and you can click the button. It says send an email, so it's got their information. So if people don't want to sign it or they've already signed it, you can email those people to help us push through.
Right. All right. Is there anything else or pertinent information you want to discuss?
Terry?
I just want, I don't have any more information. I just want to plead with it, somebody knows.
Yeah, and I agree.
They will remain completely anonymous. It's, when you know something and you don't come forward, you're just as guilty.
Yeah.
As someone stated on the page earlier today,
Yes. And I
hiding
agree.
a crime, right?
Yeah,
You can come
hiding.
forward and you may not get prison time.
Right, but like you were gonna say, hiding a crime sometimes is just as bad as doing the crime.
Correct.
And that's a principle that I think a lot of people need to understand. For me, just to add to what you just said about just somebody knows something, have a conscience. Like we said in the first episode, I hope your conscience eats at you every single day. If you know anything, any information is better than no information. I mean, even if you know of a person's involvement, if you know how the truck ended up there, if you know anything, do the right thing, report it to the right people, and let's get Jared found.
And remember,
And what? Go ahead.
remember Thanksgiving's coming up, and so while you're sitting around with your children and your family having a Thanksgiving dinner, we're not blessed with that opportunity.
Right. I mean, it's got to be, and I don't even want to begin to try to pretend like I know what that feels like. I know it's got to be torturous, and I would not want to. Honestly, I wouldn't want to live through that. I couldn't imagine one of my boys going missing and me having to really be one of the only people actively trying my hardest to do something about it. I mean, it's morale deflating. It's like I said, torturous to your soul. I mean, you're dealing with that on a daily basis versus people who see it on social media and is like, oh well, she should be saying more. Well, it's not much more that that they don't. You've said everything that
Right.
you can say.
And it's because of people like you, like Marissa with Advantage, like Don with Method and Madness. There is very good people in St. Francisville that showed up and really showed out and helped and still continue to help. Miss Terry, she lives 3 hours away from the location where Jared went missing and owns a restaurant, so she's busy 24/7 because she can't get no help over there. But
Right.
she picked up everything and took off and helped me cook. Me and her were cooking in the motel room the night before, and she's always been there, to help out in any which way. But it's because of all of you that helped me remember the positive instead of the negative.
Well,
Now,
I definitely will continue to do that as well. Just because we have these conversations and then the episodes put out for sure doesn't mean that that's the end of my work.
Yes.
But
now
one of y'all was about to say something.
I do. Tammy, I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't believe the woman used her. She put her name. Now you know who I'm talking about, the one that you had to delete because Samantha was upset about it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would love to plead for her to contact you directly.
I did message her, but I haven't heard back.
I
So
She
there
had
was some
some.
kind of dialogue with somebody with some kind of information. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, somebody had information that they posted on the Finding Jared, and I did approve the post, but there was some details that were disturbing for Samantha. So she deleted it because things turned out kind of like they did today. But this was a little bit more gruesome details.
Mm.
And I don't want to say that I'm uh, harsher or colder to those details, but you got to remember Samantha, Jared and Austin were her brothers, so a lot of those things are really, really hard for her.
Right.
And but it doesn't make it less hard for me. I'm just saying I've heard a million different ways that my son's been chopped up, butchered, cut in bitty pieces, put here, put there. I mean, I've pretty much heard it all the last year. So I'm kind of numb to a lot of those things. I know with every little bit of information that you get, you might take a centimeter of that and get a full foot by the time you piece everything together.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then everybody's gonna think that they have it figured out, and the fact of the matter is, we'll genuinely never know until until somebody comes forward with the actual information and it's followed up on.
Well, the person that she's discussing, her information is factual from what we've heard on other from various other sources.
Mm. All right. Well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna ask you to elaborate more on that. I understand that that's still kind of a subject that needs some verification through other sources via police or
And I
anything.
would actually ask those people to please come forward if you don't trust them. As far as the page or anything like that, Detective Carr has always promised me that certain individuals, if they choose to, can remain anonymous unless it is pertinent in court that he cannot. But by all rights, he will try. Because I know there's been several people who've recently written out statements and sent back to him of things that they've seen. But that's the problem is that we need them to reach out to the detective more to be
Mm.
able to make these statements.
And that's something I really want to push to, and I want to elaborate on because of the post that was made earlier. A lot of it was, stop badgering the police. I'm sure the police have other things to do, and all these different things. I don't care if you call the police 1,000 times a day just to give a tip or check on the case. That makes them do their job. That
Right.
pushes them to do it that much more. When you're getting constant calls on the same thing, they're either gonna be like, God damn, I'm tired of hearing about it, or man, I really need to put a foot down and step forward and get some kind of information that I could give these people so they'll leave me alone, even if it's just for that purpose. Yeah, I genuinely hope that somebody comes forward. I hope that somebody says something because we all know. I mean, as we all three sit here on this phone, somebody knows something and they're just not saying it.
Right. I mean, for whatever happened, Gary was there in St. Francisville, and that's why I didn't choose to list it that way or make those changes. The department, the sheriff, if anybody knows what NamUs does, everything has to be approved through the sheriff's department.
Hmm.
They made those changes. I didn't. And you cannot be in a town of 500 people like we are here that where everybody, like where we live in Louisiana, everybody's related to everybody, and you cannot tell me that they don't know nothing. A stranger comes into town, everybody knows.
Hmm.
Somebody sees, I mean, Carrie was there with me. We was there twice or three times.
Yeah,
Uh, three
you're
times.
right.
And
Yeah,
people look whenever you see a strange vehicle that doesn't live there.
yeah, that's valid. I mean, I could relate it back to Hurricane Katrina when I got relocated to a city, a very small city in Arkansas. But before I got there, everybody knew my name, how tall I was, what school I came from in Louisiana. I mean, it was all over the place. So
Hmm.
I think every small town is the same. Something don't belong, you know about it.
Exactly. And if they ain't talking to you, they're talking to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
The, I think the biggest, again, not putting the town down because I think it's really a town full of history, and there are really, really good, amazing people. The only thing that is odd to me is being a small town where everybody knows everybody, and again, not trying to judge, but Okay, where we live here in Marion, Louisiana.
Mm.
Um, if there was an event like that going on here, our mayor, I'm sure, would be there. Our one or two local cops would be there, and so would a whole lot of residents in the area. For one, maybe to be nosy. For two, for the free food. For three, with all the churches around here, everyone be coming up there trying to help and pray, and help by whatever means. We didn't have very many locals there. We had several, and those are ones who are tried and true. But a lot of them were people driving from a far distance away. I mean, I would have loved to gotten the opportunity to meet more locals in the area. It just
Right.
didn't happen.
And I mean, I think a lot of the people that was coming from far away, like you said, are due to people like myself and the Method of Madness podcast, and then things like that that have people genuinely interested and genuinely wanting to help. I mean, and that's all great, but there's no one that knows more than a local.
Right. And we
Yeah.
also know that we were being watched,
Mm.
um, whether they know we noticed or not, but we did.
So being watched by officials or being watched by citizens?
No, a citizen, just a vehicle that kept showing up and just sitting and watching, then it would drive off.
Interesting.
The same, the same vehicle 3 different times.
Hmm. Well, that's concerning.
It is very concerning.
There was in some ways, I think me and Terry both, we felt a little bit of intimidation. I think that's why I've made one of those posts as far as people, maybe even local citizens, feeling intimidated by others as far as not coming forward. I don't want to say we felt intimidated because they can't really intimidate me, but the difference is for the locals there, they have to live there. I don't. I get to come home.
Right.
Right.
I mean, and unfortunately, I get the small town vibe. I get the not wanting to say anything because, oh, my neighbor is my best friend and, type deal. Like, oh, he may know something, but I can't say it because then I have the potential of having it fall back on me and all this. Like, I get all of that. But at
Well,
the
and
end
then
of the
somebody else
day,
is going to mad at them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the same way here,
yeah,
and like here, a lot of people have got the thoughts of something happens, you handle it on your own. You don't call the police. You don't get the police involved.
yeah, and that's becoming more common too. But like I was gonna say, at the end of the day, it's about being human and having compassion for the situation. And I mean, if you're anybody other than the person who potentially harmed him, your conscience should be eating you. Your conscience should be telling you, like, man, listen, I didn't do it. I know who did it. I need to say something because
Right.
your
And
conscience
also,
doesn't hurt as bad as your grief.
usually when you go, I know my father lived in a small town in Kentucky, and you could go there and you got the small town feel. You feel safe, kind of homey type.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for. I've always lived in a big city. Um, you definitely do not get that small town safe feeling. At least
Mm.
I did not.
And
It's
you
just a
mean what
very
out
uneasy.
there and where it took
Correct.
place? Okay. Yeah, I definitely don't have those vibes. I mean, I live in a city where I mean, murder is our headline every day. So
Right.
it's for our like I live in Jefferson Parish, and we have the third largest per capita sheriff's office in the nation, and it's still so kind of I don't want to say cliquish, but things like this that happen is it's almost the same way is just like yeah well things like this happen where the only I think the only difference is this sheriff's office has the means of pursuing it a little further.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing that my brother has trouble with. I think you and I have discussed it before. He's Captain Collier County Fire Rescue, but there's a lot of things too that he can't speak up to because of same as say with your car. You can't speak on anything publicly without permission, but also it irritates him, not only for what people say on that page, but due to the fact of he lives in Florida and things are done differently there. It's a bigger city and investigations go differently. The way this case has been handled irritates him, I think, so it's hard for him to keep a calm on it.
Yeah, I listen. I get that too because I have to sometimes remind myself posting from my personal page has a direct reflection on my professional image. I guess you
Mhm.
can say just being a fire chief. People that follow me strictly because they know I'm the fire chief and they want to see what I guess my daily life has to do. But when I post, for example, we have what's called the West Bank Nosy Neighbors is a site, and
Oh, wow.
it's basically a Facebook group where people from around my area go on to complain about anything and everything that they don't like. And I'm banned from that page because
Mm.
they've posted me in the capacity of my job with me literally working doing CPR on a victim in the middle of the street. Like they posted a picture of it and it
Oh my
got to
goodness.
me. So I lost my cool and went off on them. They ended up blocking me. Well, right after they blocked me, a guy that I work with, son was killed in a motorcycle accident, and he found out via somebody's post on that page. So
Yeah.
it's social media at this point is everything, and I kind of I say all that to say this: like information will spread, and it's only a matter of time. Like, if you want to remain anonymous, the best way to do it is, unfortunately, exactly how the person I disagreed with this morning did it. Make a post, remain anonymous, and then I'm more than sure you'll see it. Somebody that's an admin on that page will see it, follow up with it, and if you feel like there's merit to it, you'll report it.
But
Right.
like as far as the anonymous, like I said, I did approve that myself because I want people to see what we deal with on a daily basis
I'm sure.
as far as our messages. But also, number two, I know people have complained about the site and what we allow and things we delete. But please remember, this is Samantha's site. She started it, and this site is hers. And kind of took it over a little bit with God willing the help of Melanie, but it's not there to trash Jared. It's not there to speak negatively about him, and it's there to uplift and support for all of us, and it's support for me. As negative as that sounds, it's not about me; it's about Jared. But those people give me hope and they give me faith every day. There's other outlets, there's other social media sites that if they want to speak their negative theories and say horrible things about my son, that they can do it on, just not there.
Understandable completely. And you are much calmer than I think I could ever be dealing with a situation like that. I don't know how you do it.
Well, I wasn't. I didn't used to be. Whenever Austin went to heaven, I was mean. I hated the whole entire world. I mean, I was hateful to everybody. Um, but due to health, and really it was Jared who helped get me my calm and help me understand. So throughout this ordeal, I keep hearing his voice in my head. And anger is not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to get me any more answers.
Yeah, you're right about that. For sure.
And my goal is he needs to be home next to his brother.
And hopefully, if not me, someone can facilitate having that happen. And like I said, somebody needs to come forward and say something just stop. I mean, you'll never stop grieving, but at least you'll have some kind of answer.
That's why we changed the posters. We kind of did it. Not too many people notice, but because of what we believe in, because of what we're told, it's not uh, missing. All the posters at this event were justice.
I'll be the first to tell you I didn't notice, but looking at it now, I see that, and that's a testament to your belief, and if anything, should let people know that. Listen, I always say a mother's intuition is usually right, and I think the feeling that you're feeling about there being foul play and somebody knowing and being involved. I definitely think that you're right on that. And with this being a part two, and I know I gained a lot of reach out there in the Illinois and Indiana area off of the first one, and became one of my most listened to episodes. Hopefully, this follow up just triggers them even more, and somebody steps up and says something. I pray for that for y'all on a daily basis.
Amen. I do too.
On a quick note, you said a mother's instinct. I don't know if you've seen the post that I made whenever I was over in that area. And at that time, I went by myself to check out the area because Miss Terry hadn't gotten there yet. And I don't know if you've seen what I posted, but that was the creepiest thing. I know Terry mentioned psychics, but I was leaving. I just did a drive through. I didn't stop anywhere. I just did a drive through the town to see the area that we're going to hold the event in. And as I was coming out of town, all of a sudden, and my phone synced to my truck, but all of a sudden, several times, I think I sent you, Terry, I think I sent you the whole video, didn't I?
Yeah.
My phone kept calling my husband out of nowhere. And I couldn't get it to stop. It's through my truck, and I couldn't get the truck button to make it shut off. And then finally, I said out loud, I told Jerry, I was like, all right, I promise you, I'm not going to leave you behind. I'm coming back for you.
Yeah, I get it.
And the phone call stopped. It was so weird. Then I talked to my husband. He said he didn't have no missed calls, and you can clearly see on there that it went to voicemail, and it stayed on there for a few minutes, but he never even got a voicemail.
And the last person she had called was me.
Right.
So it wouldn't have been a redial issue.
Correct.
No, because I talked to Miss Terry 3 or 4 times since I
Right.
talked to you.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really, really amazing.
Yeah, it was belly churning. When I say as far as video, and I'm only mentioning that it was video because I'm old school. I don't know how to use my cell phone too well as far as technology. So I got one of those old handheld video cameras that kind of just hold up to whatever I'm driving so I can see. And it's also, since whenever my husband's not with me, so then whenever I come home, he can see what I seen, through the handheld. So it was me recording on that handheld. And
wow. Yeah, that's, if that ain't a sign, I don't know what is.
yeah, and they stopped out of nowhere. I mean, just right quick. As soon as I started talking to Jared, and I promised him that I was coming back.
Well, I think that he knows that you're fighting and you're doing everything that you could possibly do to, keep him relevant and keep this case going and keeping it strong. And I'm sure that he knows that, his mom's doing everything everything she can plus some. And again, anything that I or my team or any one of my listeners can do to help you, please don't hesitate. I know you talked to me about doing this secondary episode just to kind of keep it relevant, and I'm thankful that you came on to talk, and I got to have this conversation with you. But I am getting the signal from my team that my time's about to wrap up here shortly. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up?
Miss Terry?
No, I think we've covered everything. Just like I said, just pleading if somebody knows something, please say something.
Absolutely. And Miss Tammy again, but I don't know if you have anything else, but thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to me this time. And I understand the first episode you were pretty busy and wrapped up in a lot of things, and it was still much fresher than it is today. But I just want you to know I do sympathize with you every day, and I do pray every day that you get some kind of answers, because I know it cannot be anywhere near easy to be dealing with this.
No, sir.
So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank y'all again for joining me, and I'm going to try my best to put this out there within the next couple days so people can listen and just keep Jared's name like again, I hate to use the word relevant because he'll always be relevant regardless of the situation. But just keep it out there, and hopefully you get some answers soon.
Thank you so much, and thank you for even as far as the resources and stuff that you've helped to provide.
Well,
Yeah, thank you.
if there's anything else that I could come up with, I'll definitely do that for y'all, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
And that'll do it for the Jared Mccolloch Part 2 episode in the interview. I just encourage anybody who may have any information to come forward, notify the appropriate authorities, notify us, notify the Finding Jared Mccolloch page, something. Have a conscience. Let's help these people get some clarity on the situation. But I should have this episode out to y'all in a couple days, and y'all know what to do with it. So, with that being said, y'all have a good night. Again, I'm Larry Frederick, and this is the Sound of Sirens podcast.